You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
You know what they put in the water, don't you? Fluoride. On the pretext that it strengthens your teeth.
So in a way, mind uploading is a shortcut around artificial intelligence that will allow us to have machines with human minds.
Sure, we will be able to sculpt our bodies like living sculpture. Our bodies could be beautiful electronic designs that shimmer prismatically in the light, in the morning light. It could change forms. It could become a piece of marble on one hand and then totally mutate into some fluid type of luminescent, snake-like quality.
Just because we don't regenerate doesn't mean that we can't regenerate, it just means that we don't. And what we've done here is change the information in the cells at the wound site.
Dr. David Gardner of the University of California, Irvine, is trying to learn how to make humans better regenerators by studying nature's reigning regeneration champ, the salamander.
When you cut off a salamander's arm, you can cut it off at any level. So you can cut off fingers, you can cut it off at the wrist or the arm or the elbow or the shoulder. And whatever you cut off, that's always what grows back. It doesn't grow back more and it doesn't grow back less.
Gardner wonders how a human who has lost a limb might be able to recover like a salamander.
This, for example, is no special effect. It's a lab-grown lung, no clone attached.
I absolutely see a day where you'll walk into a manufacturing facility somewhere and there will be jars of kidneys, and jars of livers, and jars of lungs, whatever it is you need.
Dr. Steve Badylak is Deputy Director of the McGowan Institute for Regenerative Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh, where they are in the vanguard of a fast-moving field called tissue engineering. The goal? Grow tissue, or even whole organs, to repair damaged or diseased human bodies. Here they are using pig bladders to help grow human muscle. That's right, pig bladders. Turns out they're a good source of a fundamental biological building block known as the extracellular matrix.
A strange new era is dawning. An era of revolutionary experiments. Wired torsos, chip-implanted brains, creatures of silicon and steel. Welcome to the age of cyborgs and androids. As humans become more machine-like and machines more human, the line between biology and technology is starting to blur. And in the process, we may just be reinventing the future of our species. In this age of advancing technology, we are becoming increasingly impatient with the bodies nature has given us. With our frailties, our failing sight, our broken limbs, the crippling limitations of illness and age. While our minds soar, our bodies seem frozen in time. What if we could build a better body? Use technology to fix this human form, and then actually improve upon it. Make it stronger, faster, smarter, and create the human of the future today.
Hi, I'm Nigel. I lost part of my arm in an accident at work a few years ago. Since then I've been fortunate enough to be given one of these to trial. This is the B-Bionic V3. It's a prosthetic hand. This is the B-Bionic V3. This is key grip. This allows you to hold credit cards, bank cards, car keys, etc, etc. And now move to a point. Pretty self-explanatory. This one will allow me to type the keyboards. We then move the thumb to this position, and we can get tripod grip. So if they can put small things up, we can then change the grip again. This is power grip, this is for heavy things, this is for shaking hands, this is for being human. And we have this grip here. This is one that scares children and upsets my wife. Right rotate the hand here. This is trigger grip, but it can be adapted if you so wish, if you've got the guts. Having a relaxed grip, this is so that when you walk down the street, it just looks like a normal hand. You can close it a bit further if you want to. And then we have a mouse grip. So hold a mouse, single click, double click. And they're developing this now so that you'll be able to, soon be able to drag and drop.
Futurists have long speculated that we could use our technology to alter the course of human evolution, to redesign the species. 4 decades ago, the neuroscientist Manfred Clynes imagined engineering a new race of people for life in space. Their bodies rewired, their hearts replaced by nuclear fuel cells. Metal beneath the skin. Cybernetic organisms, cyborgs, the ultimate merger of man and machine. In the past decade, medical science has already fit some 11 million people worldwide with artificial body parts. Titanium hearts, synthetic corneas, mechanical hands and legs. Generation of implants is on the horizon. As computer chips become tinier, more powerful, engineers are fitting them with biological sensors, electrodes, radio receivers, devices that tap directly into the senses and reach deep into the brain itself.
Researchers at the University of Minnesota Center for Cardiovascular Repair have taken a significant step towards developing blood vessels or organs that are made from your cells. In theory, those organs could be transplanted into your body.
It opens the notion that we can make any organ. At first we focused on the heart, but our hope is that if you need it, we can make it.
Dr. Taylor's lab developed a process called whole organ decellularization, the process of removing all the cells from an organ, leaving only the extracellular matrix.
You can think of it as a bare wooden frame for a house.
The process starts by removing a heart from an animal cadaver, in this case, a rat. A catheter is inserted into the organ, and a solution slowly drains cells from the heart. Over the course of several hours, the solution removes everything but the extracellular matrix. After the heart is completely drained, it is ready to be reseeded with a fresh crop of cells.
At this point, we inject the scaffold with cells, your cells. We leave it in the lab for about a week, and after that, the cells actually begin to contract, and the heart starts to pump. In theory, the decellularized organ, now with cells, is on the way to becoming a new heart.
Okay, how about building a robot that simulates child development? That would open up whole new possibilities for understanding the process.
This pneumatic robot, called CB2, has 51 pliant degrees of freedom, making it capable of flexible, lifelike movements and realistic vocal generation. To make it suitable for physical interactions with humans, it has a full-body soft skin and an array of multimodal sensors for visual, auditory, and tactile feedback.
CB2 is capable of childlike full-body motion. Tactile sensors are embedded in its silicon skin and mimic the way infants receive tactile sensations during motion. In other words, CB Square can simulate the very same developmental process that a child goes through when generating a self-body image.
Parents assist the motion of their children. Can humans do the same for CB Square? In fact, intimate interaction can be performed by only controlling the timing of ballistic motion thanks to its flexible joints. It provides us with quantitative data to analyze what makes the interaction successful. These figures show that it's even possible to measure the degree of synchronization using correlation between CB Square's motion and the human caregiver.
He's got to open that door, not knowing what's on the other side. He's got to be in a position to be protected as soon as that door comes open.
McCraven has ordered up the Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit, better known as the Iron Man suit. The idea? Lightweight armor protection, possibly with battery power flowing through it, to give a soldier extraordinary ability to move faster and operate longer in battle. Former Navy SEAL Chris Eben says the suit can make commandos even better.
It is going to take a super soldier, a SEAL, a Green Beret, a Delta Force guy, and push him into a stratospheric level. What people don't realize is all these technologies exist already, but they exist separately. So they're taking them all and they're putting them together, and they're adding some pretty cool things like liquid armor that becomes hardened, in a millisecond.
There are plenty of ideas. Imagery from drones or satellites overhead right into the helmet visual display. Boots that generate electricity with every step a soldier takes, and flexible head-to-toe protection so troops can move closer to the enemy.
If they can work out the bugs and get it to where it's functional, and it's going to take a group of guys that are already extremely high functioning on the battlefield and make them completely unstoppable.
McCraven wants the first version of an Iron Man suit within a year.
Memorial for Fallen Special Operations Forces is here in Tampa at MacDill. The goal of this, the Revision Kinetic Operations Suit, is to keep any new names from going on to that monument. So as part of a huge military convention here in Tampa called SOFIC, it is out in public for the first time. You've got to check this out. Night vision, computers, communications, can all just be plugged right into this suit. Instead of only a bulletproof vest, it wraps 60% of a warrior's body in armor. That stuff is so heavy, so on the outside of the suit, a motorized metal skeleton carries that weight instead of the person inside.
When I turn that helmet, that whole system articulates, so the operator actually feels zero load directed on the top of his head. So you've got about a 10-pound head protection package that you don't feel on the head.
And it's important to say, this is a work in progress, and one company's vision, one version of this technology. We expect to see many more over the next few years. Special Operations Command, SOCOM, at MacDill Air Force Base, is pushing this project. Since the decision makers are here in Tampa, this suit is debuting in Tampa. Supporters are telling me we can expect that focus on the Bay Area to keep growing.
With transhumanism, the whole thing is that we will be in control of our evolution and development. So this was just a natural bridge from what my research before and this topic too. The first thing that I would want is that that people would have an understanding about transhumanism. As I'm talking to friends and relatives and so on, right now, very few people have an understanding of this. Just think of the word transhuman. Okay, the word trans is really a vehicle. And so you have three steps. You have humanity, transhumanism, and posthumanism. And so the intermediary step between being human and then being in a place where you're totally controlled by technology. Transhumanism is that intermediary step of going from being human to post-human. When you look at society today, and we do have an aging society, and there are certain problems like lack of hearing, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. These are all really problems that are in our society. And with medical technology, we're making tremendous advancements. Like, for example, people who lost of hearing, you can have a cochlear implant. We think in terms of Parkinson's disease, the deep brain stimulation, where the tremors can be controlled. And even it's envisioned that in 5 years, blindness will be something of the past. These are all wonderful things. But as far as the transhumanist is concerned, he doesn't want to stop there. They have a tremendous fear of death. And so they want to take this technology and use it to, what? Well, conquer death. That's their greatest fear. There's two aspects. I mean, when you think in terms of what we're doing for a person who has Parkinson's disease, I mean, that's commendable. But to move that same technology and move to the place where we're going to conquer death, this is totally different. And that's where really transhumanism is really the gateway to posthumanism, when we will basically be totally controlled by technology, and particularly computerization. In the case of Ray Kurzweil, in one of his videos, that we can become God. If we can control death, we're God. And from a biblical point of view, you see, we've gone full cycle. We think in terms of Adam and Eve, when they were tempted to know good and evil, and that you can become God.
Robots learning not just how to express human emotions, but develop relationships with people. What may sound like the plot of a sci-fi movie is right now in the works at UCSD with Diego San. The technology works similar to the one already in use in social media websites to recognize your friends' faces. For example, if Diego San detects a smiling face, it can smile back.
Compared with its predecessor Showa Hanako 1, this robot is designed to be more realistic, functional, and easier to use.
Table tennis
partner, Ms. Aiko Chihira, communicates by speaking and in Japanese Sign Language. She has 43 motors, giving her a lifelike design.
The first time Albert Einstein locks eyes with you, it can be an intense experience. The super-realistic Einstein robot, an emotionally intelligent machine modeled after the famed physicist, can track your eye movements, respond to audio cues, and mimic your facial expressions, much like a real human. The Head and Shoulders automaton was built at Hanson Robotics in Texas, and it uses 31 internal motors to evoke expressions of happiness, sadness, anger, fear, or confusion. But what makes Einstein seem so human is its software, developed by scientists in the Machine Perception Laboratory at the California Institute for Telecommunications and Information Technology at UC San Diego. Lab director Javier Movillan developed the software that allows the robot to recognize facial expressions on people around it. The software allows Einstein to observe and understand human stimuli and to respond in a relatively natural way. It even recognizes facial cues suggesting age and gender, or whether the person interacting with it is wearing glasses. The robot's parallel facial action coding system can also detect simple gestures like nods and mimic those reactions. Scientists are hoping to use the Einstein robot to better understand the interaction between humans and robots. It could also be used as a platform for entertainment, fine arts, cognitive therapy, and even education. Indeed, the UC San Diego scientists already have plans to deploy the robotic head in a high school classroom to see if learning from Albert Einstein himself might be one way to engage teenagers more fully in physics, math, and other sciences.
The artificial blood circulation ensures the metabolism necessary for the life of the head. The isolated head lives on for hours and reacts to external stimuli. The isolated head even reacts to light and to sound.
such as perhaps a technological restructuring of our bodies to eliminate the requirement for food, prevent our minds from falling into a state of crippling disorder, and maybe even render death obsolete. Unsurprisingly, such lofty ambitions are often considered quite radical, and that's one of the defining features of transhumanism. It does not recognize the traditionally accepted limitations of human existence. Instead, it aims to move beyond them. And the revolutionary potential of transhumanism is exactly what makes it worth working towards. Given sufficient effort, we can make life genuinely better by improving our world and ourselves to the greatest extent possible. And I am a transhumanist because I want to see this realized. I'm a transhumanist because I care deeply about the well-being of humanity. And for all its triumphs, our world is still failing so many people. The scale of ongoing human suffering is unimaginable, and we could and should put an end to it. I'm a transhumanist because I strongly value intelligence, and I think intelligent beings in all their splendor and uniqueness deserve better than annihilation by default. There is no need for all of us to be condemned to death simply by virtue of being alive. By liberating human minds from the shackles of the flesh, the end of life can be optional, not inevitable. I'm a transhumanist because I believe these incredible possibilities are within our grasp. There is no reason to assume we aren't smart enough to ever reach these goals, because all we have to do is make someone a little bit smarter, enlist their help in making someone even smarter than that, and continue until we reach a point where we are intelligent enough to make something wonderful happen. I'm a transhumanist because we have too much room for improvement for us to give up partway through. I believe there's no such thing as good enough when we can do better. I'm a transhumanist because the dream of boundless self-improvement and the end of pain and death doesn't have to be a dream. We can make this a reality. So, are you a transhumanist?
Now, doctors are apparently a step closer to performing surgery, which sounds like something from a horror novel, transplanting a human head onto another body. An Italian surgeon claims it is now possible, and the first patient has been found. RT has been speaking to him.
Valeri is aiming to become the first human to undergo a body transplant surgery, attaching his head to a different body. He says his condition gets worse every year and getting a new body is the only solution, even though there's a big chance he won't survive. A few years ago, Italian neuroscientist Dr. Sergio Canavero announced he was planning to conduct the surgery as soon as 2017 and picked Valeri, who contacted him by email. We managed to speak with Dr. Canavero.
Russia sent Yuri Gagarin into space with fair chances of dying. America sent Neil Armstrong to the moon with fair chances of dying. And the chances here are much, much better than were those of those two men.
Emphasize the great potential if technology is developed and used wisely and fairly, that there's just this enormous space of possible modes of being, that human life can become something far greater than what we know, and that ultimately technology is needed to realize that potential. I think that's the core of the transhumanist vision, but that's consistent with there being huge risks and there being the possibility of technology being used for huge evil, and it being the case that current technologies often don't work very well, and that you should be skeptical of just popping a lot of pills and hoping that, you know, you will derive great benefits from that. So it's consistent to have this ultimately very optimistic view about what can happen if everything goes right, and that technology has a big part in that. And at the same time being skeptical about what technology can do now, and about what the risks that we will confront in actually realizing this immense goal.
This is Connie Culp as she used to be, a mom with a husband who pulled out a gun and shot her in the face. She was 40 years old, and for 4 years she would live with no jaw, no nose, practically blind. And then the surgery that made history, 22 hours, a 40-person medical team, including 8 surgeons, performing the nation's first face transplant.
And this was how she looked when her transplanted face was still new. It had no feeling. She didn't know there was a tear on her cheek. But flash forward 1 year later, Connie Culp is truly going home.
What's the first thing you think?
What a great day it is. Yeah.
When you look in the mirror, what do you see?
You know, I can finally see my lips.
The medical community have learned
from Konya one important lesson, that you have to be a very strong person.
There is still swelling around her jaw, which will go down, and the nerve endings are regrowing an inch a month. And she does muscle exercises to ensure she has a kiss and a smile.
Everybody has wondered if you have wondered too. Would you be yourself? Would you do something different? What did you see of your own expression?
You know, I think they made me look somewhat like I used before.
Your smile.
They did a good job, didn't they?
What do you love to smell now?
Well, I like smelling flowers.
It's time to pick a face. Like Mike. You got good taste.
These are covered with a unique human-like skin called rubber, short for flesh rubber. The ultra-realistic android can also recognize and interpret the expressions of real humans it comes into contact with. Grace Copplestone is from developers Hanson Robotics.
So we have cameras in his eyes and in his chest, which allow him to recognize people's faces. Not only that, but recognize their gender, their age, whether they're happy or sad.
Anne is even able to hold simple conversations thanks to voice recognition software.
I think you are perfect man for my wife.
I don't have to do whatever you say. I have my own free will.
Anne, however, won't be the robot to get the job. Instead, the technology is being commercialized on Eva, a more approachable female robot, with plans to produce hundreds of models this year.
What is it?
It's asleep.
Fairwell Electronics presents its new model, the Mark 13. The Mark 13 is self-repairing, capable of recharging its storage batteries from just about any power grid, including the sun.
And when it wakes up, it'll become something entirely new.
I gotta see. It's important. Meet me in 1 hour.
A creature that combines the technology of a computer, the deceit of a human, and the killer instinct of a machine.
But insofar as transhumanism can continue to serve that role of raising awareness, bringing these topics into the center of attention and getting people to widen their horizon and thinking of the human condition not as an eternally given, but something that perhaps can change and will change. That's a very important value that transhumanism brings to the world, in addition to sort of being an actual kind of social community for the people who are actively engaged themselves.
Well, one of the big advances is nanotechnology, that you could create nanoparticles and say put whatever medicines that you'd want in those nanoparticles, and then you put an arrowhead, that would on the nanoparticles that target it right to the tumor cell. So the idea is that you'd be able to get very, very high concentrations of the drug into the tumor or whatever other site you're going to, and very, very low concentrations in the rest of the body where it might cause bad side effects.
Can we do that now?
They're in clinical trials right now. Well, this is an example of something we're working on that's actually now in clinical trials for osteoporosis. These are little microchips that we've designed that you can actually put in the body. And you can actually do remote control drug delivery, actually even with a cell phone or a BlackBerry or something like that. So the idea is that you have little wells. You can even put antennas on these little chips. And you can communicate with the chip outside the body and then just say deliver the drug at day 1, day 2, even while the woman's sleeping. That's actually how the clinical trial was done.
Did you know that humans of the future will have very different senses than we have now? It's true, and it's already happening. Take Neil Harbison, who was born colorblind and became a cyborg by implanting an antenna into his skull so that he can now hear color.
Neil Harbison was born completely colorblind. And while Neil still can't see color, a device called the eyeborg allows him to hear and sense colors.
It picks up the dominant color in front of me, and then it transposes this frequency of light into the frequency of sound.
If you think hearing color sounds strange, how about tasting sound? Researchers at a startup company called Sapien are working on a device that allows hearing impaired people to experience sound frequencies on the nerves of their tongues, effectively teaching their tongues to hear for them. These sensory advancements are rocketing us closer to transhumanity, the next step in humanity, the next step in our evolution from mere humans to beings with more enhanced powers, or as transhumanists call them, post-human. And these powers are so awesome that they're bound to become the norm.
それでは、例えば身長は158センチメートルです。体重は43キログラムです。微笑んでちょっと微笑みは結構微妙なんですけども、じゃあ怒って。
Finally, scientists have placed, get this, a worm's mind into a robot's body. Beneath the skin of a simple worm with transparent skin are 302 neurons. Scientists mapped those neurons, and the nervous system has been transplanted into the body of a Lego Mindstorms EV3 robot. You see it there. Most fascinating here, what scientists have found is that rather than just random crazy movements by the robot, that robot actually responded to its environment in the same manner as the biological worm.
I am Bina.
How are you feeling?
Actually, I am dealing with a little existential crisis here. Am I alive? Do I actually exist? Will I die?
These are the types of big-picture questions that Bina 48, the robot, and Martine Rothblatt, CEO of United Therapeutics, are trying to tackle.
Bina 48 is a proof of concept robot based on the personality and on the mind file of my wife Bina.
Each resort is maintained by reliable computer technology and people by lifelike robot men and women.
Transhumanism, where animal DNA can now be spliced into human DNA, creating the promising yet frightening possibility of a new form of human.
We are going to be able to do things with genetics. We'll be able to heal our bodies. We'll be able to make ourselves stronger. There was a great deal of promise that was emerging quickly, and the science to back it up, at least in theory. Animals can also see into areas of the light spectrum that we cannot see into. And that is viewed in transhumanism as a future benefit, and even one of the causal reasons we would want to merge ourselves with the animal kingdom so that we can open these new modes of perception into realities that right now we are blinded to. Professor Francis Fukuyama reviewed emerging fields of science and then the philosophy of transhumanism, in which he considered the combination of those two to probably be the most dangerous science and technological and philosophical concepts in the history of mankind, which he believes could very quickly lead to an extinction level event. In the way that in the past between the Soviet Union and the United States we were in an arms race over nuclear arms, transhumanism is the near future arms race, and it is considered to be of such importance that the top scientific mind at the Pentagon put out a press release recently called Jason's Fear Brain-Modified Foes, in which they were talking about this technology in the hands of our enemies. And what they were saying was, we have to get at the forefront of this technology. See, this is how we're going to be forced into this. It's not a matter of whether we should or whether it's ethical. We have to do it. In terms of what transhumanists are aspiring to through the use of these new sciences, biotechnology, nanotechnology, neuropharmacology, they all have great ology names and ism names, but what they may do is lead us literally into the fulfillment of biblical prophecy.
fascinating to me because this seems to be a really polarizing issue. You have one camp that says this is going to destroy us, and the other camp that says this is only going to help us. Where do you stand in all of this?
I wrote a book called Our Final Invention about some of the dangers that can happen on the development trail to creating human-level intelligence. There's short-term dangers and there's long-term dangers. Right now we've got a debate going on about creating autonomous drones that commit assassinations without humans in the loop. There'll be a debate coming up about autonomous battlefield robots. It's the same thing, autonomous machines without humans in the loop. Are we ready ethically to introduce those machines into the world? And so that's in the short term. There are bigger problems in the long term when you get machines that are fully intelligent, that have intelligence that's somewhat analogous to human intelligence.
I mean, the risk that seems to be posed on the table is can they evolve beyond our ability to control them, or in fact understand them?
Absolutely.
The late 20s, we'll see more and more projects with new body parts and new senses. And I believe that in the 40s it will be normal to meet someone and ask, what are your extra senses and what's your new body part?
Hearing color, tasting sound. Like it or not, my fellow humans, transhumanity is on.
This was really still considered science fiction.
Anthony Atala is director of the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine. He's been at it for more than 2 decades. Now, he and his team are working on engineering more than 30 different tissues and organs, bladders and urethras, ears, skin, muscles, human liver tissue, and even a beating heart valve.
We know that naturally what a heart does is it beats on its own. So for us, the concept of recreating this in the laboratory is really nothing more than just recreating what nature already knows how to do.
Non-biological intelligence is growing exponentially. Biological intelligence isn't really growing at all. Or if it's growing at such a slow rate that it's not noticeable. Which is why non-biological intelligence ultimately will become
Oh, yeah. Tractor beam. Sucked me right in.